Some battles, they're won with huge armies and brilliant tactics. But others are won with sheer courage. Today, we're diving into a battle from 2,500 years ago that has become the ultimate symbol of defiance. This is the story of one of history's most legendary last stands, the Battle of Thermopylae.
This quote really gets to the heart of it all, doesn't it? Because Thermopylae, well, it wasn't a victory in any normal sense of the word. It was a devastating defeat. So why on earth do we still talk about it? Because it's a story about how losing a battle can sometimes win you something much, much bigger, a legacy that never dies.
All right, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's the year 480 BC. The Persian Empire, the absolute, undisputed superpower of its day, decides it's time to expand. And their target, the messy, independent city-states of Greece. Now, this wasn't just some minor border dispute. This was a full-scale invasion designed to wipe Greece right off the map.
To call this a David versus Goliath situation, well, that would be a massive understatement. On one side, you've got this enormous, unified Persian Empire led by King Xerxes, and on the other, a shaky alliance of small, often arguing Greek city-states. The odds weren't just long, they were basically impossible.
And the scale of this invasion force was just staggering. Ancient historians tell us Xerxes marched with hundreds of thousands of soldiers. I mean, we're talking about a literal moving city, all with a single purpose, the total conquest of Greece. So, facing this unbelievable force, the Greeks had a pretty simple choice: give up or fight. Well, led by the Spartan king Leonidas, they chose to fight. But they knew a straight-up battle was total suicide. They needed an equalizer, a strategy to turn the Persians' greatest strength, their numbers, into a weakness. And that equalizer was geography. They chose this narrow coastal pass called Thermopylae, which literally translates to the hot gates. This pass was a natural bottleneck, so tight that it would completely cancel out the Persians' numerical advantage. The plan was to force this gigantic army to fight in small groups on Greek terms. Now, at the very heart of this defense stood King Leonidas and his personal guard. The number is iconic. You know it, 300. And these weren't just any soldiers. They were elite Spartans, literally bred and trained for war from the moment they could walk. But listen, here's a really important point that often gets lost in the legend. It was never only 300 Spartans. They were the hardened elite core, for sure, but they were standing shoulder to shoulder with several thousand other allied Greeks from cities like Thespia and Thebes. They were all in it together to defend their homes. So the stage is set. The massive Persian army arrives at the hot gates, and the battle is on. And for the first few days, the Greek strategy worked flawlessly. I mean, just try to imagine it. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers, including Xerxes' own elite unit, the Immortals, are charging into this narrow pass. And wave after wave, they're just cut down. The Greek phalanx, this wall of bronze shields and long spears, was completely unbreakable in that tight space. It was an absolute meat grinder. For days, the Greeks held on. It must have seemed impossible to the Persians. But then, the fate of the battle, and the fate of every man in that pass, was sealed. Not by force, but by betrayal. So how do you defeat an enemy you can't seem to break? An enemy that's turned your greatest strength, your sheer numbers, into a total liability? Well, you don't go through them, you go around them. And this was the turning point. A local man, hoping for a reward, revealed a secret. He showed the Persians a hidden mountain path that bypassed the Greek position entirely. And just like that, the perfect defense was about to be completely surrounded and wiped out. The second Leonidas learned that his position was compromised, that his force was about to be trapped, he had to make a decision. And it's a decision that would define his legacy and really the concept of courage for thousands of years. And his choice was completely deliberate. He knew death was a certainty. So Leonidas ordered the main part of the Greek army to retreat, to get away and fight another day. But he and his 300 Spartans, along with a few hundred other loyal allies who refused to leave, they would stay. They would hold the line. They would be the sacrifice. And that's exactly what they did. Surrounded on all sides, they fought with a fury that became legendary. When their spears shattered, they fought with swords. And when their swords broke, they fought with their bare hands and teeth until every single one of them was dead. So you see, there's a huge difference between the battle's immediate outcome and its real impact. The outcome? A clear Persian victory. The road to Athens was now wide open. But the impact? Their sacrifice bought the rest of Greece precious time to get its act together, to mobilize its forces, especially the navy, for the huge battles that were still to come. In defeat, they actually paved the way for the final Greek victory.
And this is exactly why this battle is so famous. It's the story of how a total military defeat was transformed almost instantly into a moral and inspirational victory that would go on to shape the course of Western history. The legacy of Thermopylae is just immeasurable. It became the ultimate story of courage against impossible odds. It's a rallying cry for anyone, anywhere, defending their freedom. For 2,500 years, their story has inspired soldiers and revolutionaries, anyone who chooses to die on their feet rather than live on their knees. So that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In a world that so often celebrates only winning, why is it that this story, a story of utter annihilation and total defeat, remains one of our most powerful and enduring definitions of what it means to be courageous?